Hi, my name's Emma McNally and I'm the CEO of the charity Tourette's Action. Now, why am I involved with the charity? Well, I'm involved because I've got a son with Tourette's syndrome and I've also got a daughter who's got ADHD and is autistic. So let's just say we're a very lively household. Now, I've got the absolute privilege of working at Tourette's Action and I've done that now for the past 4.5 years. And during this time, I've tried really, really hard to kind of ensure that Tourette's is on people's radar. So to try and get things like medical provisions improved for people with Tourette's because they're very often lacking. And also tried as hard as I can to raise awareness about the condition and remove a lot of the misunderstandings that are currently out there. But it does very often feel like we're taking kind of one step forward and two steps back. But anyway, firstly today I just want to say happy Neurodiversity Pride Week. It's hard really to try and convey emotions when you're talking to a computer screen rather than to a room full of people. But it really is an absolute honour to be invited to speak as part of the week and to celebrate something so powerful and something so important. It's especially important really for me to be here representing the Tourette's community. Because sadly, really, we're very often the forgotten ND condition. So despite Tourette's being a really common condition, we very often really don't get a seat at the table. So it's really important that we've been invited today, and I can't thank you enough for that. So this week, it's not just about awareness, it's about pride and it's about belonging. And most importantly, it's about the people within the community. People who've often spent years or even a lifetime of feeling different, feeling misunderstood, or very often feeling alone. And I just want to remind people really that you're not alone, you've never been alone, and there's a huge community out there to support you. So please reach out to the community and reach out to charities that are out there that can support you. So people come to us at Tourette's Action from like very different stages in the journey really. But something that we see time and time again, when people come to us, they very often come to us not from a place of confidence, but from a place of isolation, confusion, very often exhaustion, and also a place of shame. Now they come not knowing where to turn, not knowing if anyone will understand, and sometimes they don't even have the words to explain what they're actually experiencing. And for many in the Tourette's community, this feeling can feel especially heavy because alongside the challenges of living with tics, there's something else that kind of builds up over time, and that's the fear of being judged, the fear of being misunderstood, and also the fear of being a bit too much. So when those fears aren't met with understanding, they can very often turn into silence and isolation. So we try and help people really hard to actually break that shame. There's something that I want to say really clearly to everyone listening today. There's nothing about Tourette's that you should ever feel ashamed of. Not your brain, not your tics, and not your differences. Shame, very often, it doesn't come from who you are as a person. It comes from how the world has responded to you and made you feel over the years. So I was trying to think how I would kind of get this across today and how I would give those who are possibly just starting out on the journey, how I could give them hope, or people who are feeling really, really isolated, how could I give them hope to make them realise things that they can do to help them feel better. So before I decided on what I kind of wanted to say today, I spoke to the community and asked for their opinions on this because it's especially important for me to ensure that their voices are always included. So I asked them a series of questions. So I asked them, what's helped you over the years? And I also asked what you wish you had known sooner, and what would you tell someone who is at the start of their journey now? What things have made it easier for you throughout your life to live with Tourette's? And what message do you want the general public to know? So I'm just going to share a few short videos with you now that's from members of the community that's been shared with me.
Hi, my name is Adam. I've had Tourette's for about 40 years, and I think the thing that's helped the most is having a great sense of humour and also a great family and friends support network.
So what has helped me over the years? Having support from my loving family has been a major thing. And also being able to attend support groups so I can meet people who are just like me and we can swap strategies and life hacks. That's been a benefit.
I think the things about having Tourette's I'd love to have known sooner would have been maybe understanding in more detail the other conditions that can come along with Tourette's, such as OCD. And I guess if I was to have my time again or recommend something to someone that's just starting out on their journey, it would be to probably research as much as you can about some of the other comorbidities that come alongside Tourette's, as it will really help your life later on.
So, although I'm still a bit weird, obviously, still got my twitches, I am now a lot more confident that there's nothing wrong with me. Fish, I'm just a bit different. It doesn't mean that I'm not as worthy as everyone else of love, of success. Fish, it just means that it looks different for me sometimes.
So, what do I wish that I'd known sooner? And what would I tell someone who's just at the start of the journey? I would tell them that I'm not broken, that I have Tourette's syndrome doesn't have me. And one of the best things is to surround yourself with other people who understand and support you. Not everybody's going to get it, but the sooner that you get that support army around you, life's going to be so much easier to deal with.
In terms of things that may have made my life easier, probably would have been a greater understanding from teachers and professionals as a younger child. Didn't particularly enjoy my sort of earlier years at primary school and sort of early secondary school due to my Tourette's and the sort of misunderstanding of it from my teachers.
So one of the things that made things easier, ouch, I just banged my head, was having an ID card that can explain my condition. I always used to call it my get out of jail card. It had the Tourette's Association, Tourette's Actions address on it, number on it, and I felt like it validated my condition and was able to explain to people what my condition was like, how it manifested itself. Hey. A message I want people to know is to, look beyond the tics of the person and see that Tourette's is painful in all areas, both from a physical point of view and from an emotional point of view. Thank you.
The thing I want people to know is I have no choice. I didn't choose to have Tourette's.
Now, while everyone's journey is completely different, there's lots of common themes that kind of come up time and time again. So one of the things that we get told all the time that's really important is having a support network around you is really important. Having people around you that understand helps massively. And also people always say that they know now that the Tourette's doesn't define them or who they are, it's just a part of them. People will often say things like, I wish I'd known at the time that I wasn't alone. I wish people had understood me sooner. And I wish people would have accepted me for who I am rather than looking at the tics. And perhaps the most powerful thing that people will say is, I wish people knew that I don't choose to do this. Now, that final message kind of brings me to something really important, and it's our campaign this year, which is called No Choice. And it comes directly from the voices of the community. And people tell us the same thing. They say things like, I don't choose what my tics say. I don't choose what my body does. I don't choose to offend people. I don't choose to stand out. And I don't choose to have Tourette's. But despite this, many are treated as if they do. They're treated as if the tics are deliberate, as if the words that are spoken during tics are a reflection of their beliefs, and as if the behaviours are intentional, but they're not. Tics are involuntary, they're neurological, and they're not a choice. Now, we understand that people will react because first reactions to things, that's human. That's it might be that you're going to be surprised or confused or in shock when you first see someone ticking near you, and that's okay. But what really matters is your second reaction, the moment after the initial surprise. So what we want people to choose then is we want them to choose to be kind, to be patient, to show compassion, and to learn more and understand the condition, because that's where inclusion really begins. So I'm going to show you now the awareness video, and it's got people in the video with Tourette and people without Tourette, kind of giving both sides of the story.
I don't choose to make faces.
So I choose not to make assumptions.
I don't choose to stand out.
So I choose to help you fit in.
I don't choose what my tics say.
So I choose not to say anything back.
I don't choose to raise my voice.
So I choose not to raise my eyebrows.
I don't choose to say mean things.
So I choose to reply with kindness.
I don't choose to have this condition. I don't choose to have this condition. So I choose to have patience.
Tourette's is not a choice, but how you respond is. Choose understanding this Tourette's Awareness Month.
So what you've just seen here, this reflects like real experiences of people living with Tourette's every single day. Now, even within our own communities, misunderstandings of the condition can still exist. So people with Tourette's, they're often told, oh, you're just too much, or you're exaggerating, or you must mean what you say. You're saying those words, so those thoughts, they must be in your head. Or if you just try, you can stop what you're doing. You just need to try harder. Or people will often be quite confused by the condition. They'll say, well, you weren't doing that tic yesterday. You must be making it up. Why are you doing that now? Where's that come from? And these messages, they're deeply hurtful because they don't just question someone's condition. They question their integrity. So something that I really want to be really, really clear on. So vocal tics are not someone's belief. They're not what they're thinking. They're not intentional. Tourette's is not bad behaviour. It's not a reflection of who someone is, and there's no intent at all behind the tics. They are symptoms, and they're involuntary tics, and they're not a choice. They're not what someone is choosing to do, and that's a really important message that I want to share today. At the same time, it's kind of like really important to acknowledge that words can hurt. So when people don't understand what a tic is, the impact can be really real. But that's where awareness becomes so powerful, because when people truly understand, like when they really understand that those words are not chosen, they're not meant, and they're not controlled, the meaning then changes, like the emotional weight shifts, and what might have seemed like an offence becomes something entirely different. It's something that deserves compassion and not judgment. Now, there was a recent situation that happened where a young boy and his family were trying to board a flight. Now, the young boy had Tourette's and he was shouting out involuntary tics, one of them which was the word bomb. Now, the flight company stopped him boarding the flight, even though this was a part of his Tourette's. It wasn't something that he thought. He wasn't carrying a bomb. He wasn't a terrorist. It was just an involuntary tic that he was saying. Now, he wasn't allowed to board the flight. But the day after, his family rebooked flights with a different airline, And on that airline, he was shown compassion. He was shown a totally different situation than he'd had the day before. He boarded the flight, he was greeted, he was welcomed onto the flight, and they did an announcement to tell all the other passengers on the flight that this young boy had Tourette's. He might be saying words that he doesn't mean, he's not carrying a bomb, he's just saying this word. And it was a totally different experience for the family. They went away, they enjoyed the holiday, they were on the flight, and it just shows how there's two exactly situations that are exactly the same, but the difference is how that person is treated in that situation, and the outcomes can be totally different. So the idea of choice is really important because while people with Tourette's do not have a choice over the tics, the rest of the world does have a choice. They have a choice on how they respond, a choice on how they treat people, and a choice on whether to lead with judgment or with understanding. Now, often the person with Tourette's is already carrying far more emotional weight, so they've got the distress of not being in control of the body, the fear of upsetting others, the anxiety of being watched or judged. So the question becomes, if one person has no choice and the other one does, who has the responsibility to choose kindness? Despite all of this, I want to end on something hopeful today, because what I also see every day is individuals who are finding their voices, people who are building a community together, and people who are very often moving from a place of shame to a place of self-acceptance. And not because the world has suddenly become perfect, but very often because they found a space where they feel understood, a space where they feel accepted, and a space really where they can finally be themselves. So whether you're on your journey today, whether you have a diagnosis or whether you're self-identifying or whether you're kind of figuring things out, I just want you to know that you're not too much, you're not broken, and you're not a problem to be fixed. You're a person, you're valid, and you belong here, not in spite of your differences, but because of them. And if at any point you need support, you need help, you need guidance, we're here at the charity. So please, please reach out, because we're here to support you. My final kind of call to action today is everyone who's listening, whether you're neurodivergent yourself or you're an ally, please can I ask that you choose kindness, compassion and understanding going forward. Awareness is really important, but acceptance is what truly matters. We very often get people saying, oh yeah, I know what Tourette's is, I understand what it is, but they don't really understand, and it's kind of they understand until it impacts on them. So we want a world really where people really, really understand, and where they realise that people with Tourette's, they don't have a choice. Now you do have a choice, so please can I ask you all to have the choice to make life better for those with Tourette's. Thank you.